Tonight, we have the pleasure of having our construction manager with us, Joe Papa-Nicholas, if you want to step up to the table. Joe's here tonight to discuss, and the Board of Education has in front of them a large handout, color-coded, that deals with the preliminary scope and budget project for the summer of 2016, this summer. The construction items that need to be addressed this summer in large are life safety items in the bleachers in the main gym and roughly 53,000 square feet of roof in a large section of our school building. There are some capital improvements that we're projecting out and we want to get bids for in regards to putting in a new gym floor, taking down those stage doors that are old and in pretty bad shape and not functioning as designed, and doing some touch-up painting. So those are some other items that you'll notice on the preliminary report. In regards to the roofing, when we did our facilities assessment, we roughly had 149,000 square foot of total roof to be addressed. We addressed 16,000 square feet in the summer of 2015, this past summer. We're projecting to do 53,000 square feet this summer in 2016. And then over 17 and 18, we have roughly about 81,000 or 80,000 square feet of roofing that would be remain to complete. The majority of the roofing has already been bonded for through life safety bonds. We still have to submit one more amendment that we'll probably do this this spring, early summer, to cover any other additional life safety items and remaining roofs that are not already that have not already been bonded for in the Amendment 19 and 20, which are available on the website under the board's capital improvements. Joe, at this time, I will turn it over to you. I believe you have two documents: the large spreadsheet, and then just a example fee structure based off of that spreadsheet. Correct?
Yep.
Why don't you start going through line items, and I'm sure there's some questions because this looks a little more aggressive than what we were originally planning for.
Sure. Yeah. Stop me at any time if there's any questions over a specific item that I'm referring to. If everybody wants to turn to the main spreadsheet with the colorful highlights at the bottom, I'll start at the top and just work my way through the line items. There aren't too many of them, so it shouldn't take too long. Starting with demolition. So I identified the major items that will be demolished, so the existing bleacher system, all the existing ceiling tile, the entire wood flooring system, and then the stage doors. There's also some masonry work that gets demolished. About half of that 161 is related to the removal in its entirety of the wood floor system, which is sitting on sleepers embedded in grout. So all that gets removed down to concrete slab.
Is that only the main gym? Is that what we're talking
The
about?
entire room itself, the main,
Okay.
yeah,
Alright.
the main gym, correct. Under the bleachers, that entire area. So that's about half the cost. And then there's another 30 or 40,000 out of the 161 related to the bleacher demolition and disposal. And then the entire ceiling is about 20,000. Then there's temporary protection in that budget value, and then the stage doors and some miscellaneous items. So it's a very labor-intensive process compared to having a machine and a couple of guys remove the existing outdoor bleacher system as part of phase 2 previously.
Was it mostly done manually? People?
And access, I mean, we have to come through the exterior main entrance doors, down the hallway. That all has to be protected because that remains as is. And then through the gymnasium doors and small machines and labor. So.
Okay.
All right, moving forward, concrete mitigation and leveling system. So once the demolition work is complete and the entire system is removed, we expect there to be some inconsistencies within the existing concrete slab. And there are specific tight tolerances that have to be achieved in order for the new wood flooring system to be installed properly. So this 150,000 is based on 3/4 of an inch of material across the entire area, which should accommodate those tolerances. So that's a placeholder. We don't know It could be less, more than likely it'll be less than 3/4 of an inch, but the bid criteria specifies 3/4 to cover based on our, previous projects. It should cover any inconsistencies. And it will also address moisture mitigation too, the system that's been specified.
And in order, two things, the tolerance on the floor is pretty, was it 1/8 of an inch within a
10 feet.
10 feet
Yes.
area? And then also that if you do not mitigate the moisture in the floor right away, it does affect the floor itself, the basketball floor
It
itself.
could, yes. So it's an insurance policy for the life of the floor.
And what is the life of the floor?
Our current-
How long has our current floor been on it?
Over 60.
Oh, okay.
I'm not gonna worry about it then. Kidding.
They don't build them like they used to.
We do have
I
to
didn't
follow,
know we had-
we do have to follow manufacturer's recommendations, and if we don't have a mitigation system and we have high moisture, they'll expect a sign off from the district to place the floor.
We've had high moisture,
And assuming all risks. We don't know that, we will
but
take
we've had the
moisture.
floor for 60 years.
We will take moisture tests.
Oh, okay.
So we're starting with a new floor system, so the old one's out, it's in a dumpster. So all manufacturers require moisture to be at a certain level. But building in this insurance policy, that will address that. So it's highly recommended.
What are the chances that the concrete floor is damaged, that there's gonna be even more expense to fix it?
I think, well, we have a contingency down below in orange of $75,000. I would expect some degree of concrete slab restoration work before we even get into leveling and mitigating. So to answer your question, yes, there should be some expectation of remedial work at the concrete slab. But we don't know what that is right now.
So the
So
existing
there'll be full depth concrete slab replacement of some sort that will be required to some degree prior to leveling it.
where you see damaged areas, in other
Yeah.
words.
And Joe, just so I understand, is some of that already built into the concrete mitigation that's up in
No.
number 5? Okay.
No, but based on my knowledge, I believe the 150 is gonna be heavy because I don't believe we're gonna need 3/4 of an inch of leveling across the entire area.
Got it.
And he also, the 75,000 is the allowance for the whole, this part of the project. And he
Sure.
obviously doesn't think the patching is gonna be anywhere near that, or there wouldn't be enough contingency brought in.
I've established unit pricing, so we will have an on-site third-party testing agency, just monitoring the placement of the leveling and also quantifying it. So we know how much the bid contains, 3/4 times that area. That's our baseline, and we expect it to come under, and then the unused value will be issued to the district as a credit off the contract.
So it might be helpful if you do a reminder that you, at the present time, got these prices by talking to some of your contractors that are very familiar with this work. But then we will send it out for bid and get the actual prices after.
Correct. Yeah,
Assuming
and
that we
again-
approve this.
Yeah, and this is based specifically on 3/4 of an inch of material. We're telling them, hey, 3/4 of an inch, use this basis of design system across the entire area. So it's not very gray at this point.
Okay,
Division 4.
Division 4 masonry, this is just miscellaneous cutting and patching work in the existing gym. Pretty straightforward scope of work. There's also some cleaning of some existing masonry, wainscot, some face brick in the gym that we will go across, prep and clean accordingly.
Or anywhere where it says N and A budget placeholder?
That's an estimate that I've created. Joint sealants, miscellaneous caulking, that goes along with general prep work in the space. Chipboard metal stud framing, we're installing a couple of drywall bulkheads within the existing ceiling system, which will require existing ceiling grid and tile to be cut back and removed and then patched back. So throughout the space, we're gonna have all new ceiling tile, but grid is to remain. We're gonna paint the grid to match the tile. But there are some areas that we will be installing some bulkheads and doing some demolition work that will require some of the grid to be removed and cut back. We'll do our work and then we'll patch it back together.
is that a false ceiling up there? In
Yeah,
the main
it's a
gym.
drop ceiling.
It's a
Oh,
drop
is that what you
ceiling?
mean by false?
Yeah.
Yes.
Drop ceiling.
Yeah, so we will have pre-finished in the factory 2x2 Tectum ceiling tile. So similar product to what's in there now, but new and factory finished. It'll come out pre-finished. We also looked at possibly field painting existing ceiling tile, but it was not cost effective. It's actually
Savings.
yeah.
Because the manpower to take each tile down, store it somewhere, spray paint it, and then put it back up.
By the time you do all that, it's pretty much a wash or less to supply new. So. Line item 15, that's the new ceiling tile throughout the space that I just talked about. And then 16 and 17, or actually 16, is related to general cutting and patching and repair work for other aspects of work. Existing acoustical wall panels. Right now, they're to remain as is, so at certain points during the construction process, it will be quite dusty in there. So those have to be protected extremely well, because they will absorb dust, and once that happens, you might as well just take them off the wall. So that's what that cost is. 18, there's a little bit of new rubber flooring, which we need to build up with wood products up to the elevation of the wood floor system, and then the new rubber floor goes on from that point. That's relatively minor scope of work. And then we move into the new wood flooring system. So the $250,000 covers all 7 of our wood flooring options. So the wood flooring systems will all be identified as alternates, similar to how we did the turf at our last project. So all the numbers will be exposed. You'll see the hard number for each and every system that we have specified. And I believe we'll have 7 wood flooring options on bid day to look at and review. But that 250 covers any of the 7
And so
as a worst case.
we anticipate everything, a floor model coming in under 250.
Yes.
We did site visits, plus we did visits at the school where we had vendors come in, talk about their products, review our current gym floors so that we wouldn't have to, what kind of systems would work without having to change doors and cut down frames and some of those things. And then we took boys basketball, girls basketball, boys and girls volleyball, athletic director, facilities manager, and we went and did a site visit of each different flooring type so that they can see the floor and the bleachers. So we did our homework on this. We got multiple versions from vendors. The flooring system, I think the easiest way to do it is what Joe described, like we did with the turf. Let's see all the numbers then, and then we can look and see what fits both our specs as well as our cost.
And the flooring options that we're looking at range from, off the top of my head, 220 up to high 240s. That's kind of the range.
Can you explain, you've got the concrete, and then you have a leveler, and then you put a wood subfloor, and then a rubber floor?
Well, no, that's just a little area carved out. I forget what area that is.
Where the water fountain.
Where the water fountain.
Okay, yeah.
Water
so,
fountain.
Yeah, it's just a.
Because right now, if you
Small
look at the
square footage.
areas
There's a dip.
where the water fountains, you can see erosion because of that.
The wood manufacturers told us well, I guess except for doing the donkey games on the wood floor, the worst thing in the world for it is moisture. And that's why it's more damaged. So they're gonna put an area there that's rubber right next to the water fountain so it doesn't damage the floor.
Both vendors, if I'm not mistaken, the last 2 that we spoke to, and I think the board members were present for that, said at the minimum, we should be able, as long as there's general maintenance, we should be able to use this for at least 30 years, if not longer.
And one supplier said that if we follow his specifications for like every 2 years, maintaining the floor and everything, his warranty extends out as it goes. So like if he has a 5-year, if he does it, it'll go,
7.
7, and then it'll keep it go from there.
Tim, what did you say the worst thing was for the floor?
Water,
Oh,
moisture,
After donkey.
It warps it.
it damages the wood, and, that's where you see most of the damage on wood gym floors, they told us.
Painting? You're at painting, 20?
Painting, yeah, painting straightforward. Graphics, logos, basically, the entire space gets painted,
The paint, that 36,000 is for the walls and that stuff, correct?
and including all the grid.
Okay.
General repair, patching, painting, that's a placeholder I created. 23, adjusting existing basketball hoops, depending on the floor system. Once that's all done, the existing equipment will have to be adjusted accordingly to maintain heights. 27, that's furnish and install, new athletic floor sleeves. We have 30 new sleeves going in. Given the nature of the demolition work that we're gonna be
I'm
doing.
sorry, what are sleeves?
Floor sleeves, like
Volleyball
volleyball.
post,
Okay,
badminton
got it.
post,
Sleeves.
Badminton.
Sorry.
Badminton,
gymnastic post.
Gymnastics.
so there are quite a few sleeves.
So when we originally bid, we were looking at this, we were gonna say keep the old sleeves as a cost savings. The concern from the construction manager was that these guys are gonna be, the contractors will be building in, at least replacing some of the sleeves, because when you're coming in there with either a hand-powered bulldozer or a small bobcat, they're gonna end up damaging some of the sleeves, and they're gonna build that into the number of their demolition or their flooring quote, so it might have been better just to replace them all.
Plus, we don't
can't
know,
replace them, maybe.
right, and we don't know, right, the existing condition of how they were installed, what are they anchored in, how are they supported, you know?
And plus, we said too that if they had replaced, not all of them, but if they just did, a certain amount that were damaged, it would probably cost more than just putting in new sleeves altogether.
Right, then we'll have some new, some
Yeah.
old. This is a cleaner way of doing it. Bleachers, this is the value to furnish and install the new bleacher systems. I expect the bleacher number to probably come in around the 240,000 range.
So tell them what your alternatives are on the bleachers, Joe.
With regards to,
Well, you said we'd have 7 different flooring alternatives, but what's your specs or
so with
alternatives
regards to
on
the bleachers, the basis of design will be the Intercal system. Intercal is rep by Larson here locally. So that's the design criteria. We also approved a couple other manufacturers. So those manufacturers, in order to ultimately qualify, they need to meet that design criteria. So the layout, the gym, everything was based on Intercal. So DLA Architects had to work with one of the manufacturers on that layout in order to create the design. So I expect bids from Hussey Bleachers, who's rep by Carroll Seating, and Irwin Seating, who is rep by North Star, and then also Intercal and Larson. So I think we will get 3 bids, and the general trades contractor will be responsible to carry one of those numbers based on the feedback that they receive from the contractors. And then we're also making it a requirement that all bleacher shop drawings be submitted with the bid on bid day, so we can deem another manufacturer qualified or not if they choose to use somebody other than the basis of design.
And the basis of design is the gymnasium bleachers from Ridgewood High School is the same vendor.
Correct.
And when we went on all our site visits, we crawled into the bleachers, Joel Hatchie and I at Revis, Ridgewood. What was the name of the junior college we went to in
Overland Range.
Moraine Valley. So we went and inspected all the bleachers when we were there for the floors, and we felt the most sturdiest of construction was the basis for design on Ridgewood's bleachers. And plus, a lot of our fans and staff have used their gym in those bleachers as well.
And remind people, seating-wise, what do we have now? Seats about 1,800, did you say?
Yeah, close to 1,800, and that's exactly what we're trying to replace. We have to do some mason demolition. We have 2 wing walls. If you think about our gym, there's 4 sets of bleachers, and then there's about an 8 to 10 foot gap, maybe a little larger between each set of bleachers. But now that we're adding stairways and handrails in order to be in compliance with the life safety and code, we have to do some minor demolition of some decorative mason walls. Those are not believed to be structural walls, and that will help close the gap. So we should still be right at about 1,800 people, which would be a good size for an all-school assembly, or if we had a host graduation inside.
And then the last item here is electrical, so that's power for the new bleacher system. We're gonna be cutting and patching some existing concrete slab. That's covered in the $34,000 for new floor boxes and power and data, to have that available within the court. And that's the entire gym renovation project.
So the sum of all this is the 1131 number?
Well, plus the contingency.
Plus the contingency of the 75.
So 1,625,000. I mean, I didn't add it up. Sorry. 1,206,000.
For the gym space, the hard cost, including the contingency.
Okay, and you have, and maybe this is just your spreadsheet, you have other areas here that say not included. There's no anticipation that down the road, any of those are gonna be needed, right? This is just happens to be your spreadsheet, right?
Right, so when you see.
Well, if you start with the top two.
Because there's a couple different
Right,
meanings
right,
of not
right,
included.
right.
So CM fee structure.
Down below,
And
right.
construction bid
Okay.
package, both of those are down below.
Okay.
Number 4, or line item 4, we did talk about this earlier, so the miscellaneous concrete slab on grade patching, that's not included, but as I tag it, potential unforeseen condition, so we will have something on that.
That would come out of the 75.
Correct. Line item 8, I don't expect to have any structural steel, nor is there any in the design. Roofing at existing, that's a separate line item down below. Doors, frames, hardware, we have no door frame or hardware work in this project.
Do you anticipate any issues with the
No.
flooring height differentials?
We have thresholds, no, I don't. We will accommodate any differential in elevation by a threshold or some sort of transition. Aluminum glazing, that is not in the scope of work, I don't anticipate any. Sealed concrete, same as above. We have no signage in the project, I don't anticipate any new signage. Same with basketball equipment. The new divider curtain, that's going to be an alternate. Scoreboard work, I don't anticipate any, we don't have any in the
Well,
project.
he knows that Kevin's going to do that in.
Right, and some of these are by owner too, so.
Right.
Plumbing, fire protection, mechanical, those are not in the project. I don't anticipate any. And same with audio, visual, and sound, so any sound systems, that would be by owner as well, separate of this project.
So you guys evaluated any of the fire protection, hitting the ceilings? There's not gonna be any opening up of code issues, or anything like that for fire protection?
Not to the best of my knowledge, I could follow up with DLA, the designer of record, but not to the
Where
best
is
of my
she?
knowledge.
She
It's all money, we want to leave the architect out of it.
We asked to
part,
give-
part of what we do here is we benchmark against cost. I'd appreciate it if we can get 5 different recent gym projects and what their cost per square footage are and what the cost per square footage this is gonna be.
Sure. We need to compare apples to apples, but we can,
I'm sure you can
We
spin
can-
it somehow to make
we
it that
can
way.
do that.
But if I can, if you break it down like this, so if there's, somebody had to do concrete leveling,
Sure.
what the cost was per square foot, what our cost per square foot is, what have you.
Sure.
Based on that request, we would still be, one of the numbers we would have is we'll have our hard bid request, because this is going out to bid.
We have a mandatory pre-bid tomorrow. Bid docs were issued today.
Okay.
And we have a bid opening March.
And so the board is
7th,
clear,
I
we
believe.
have to make, the board does not have to approve any of those bids if they feel the numbers are off or wrong. We can always go back out to bid or redesign, correct?
Correct.
We did ask them to double check on asbestos and lead, which we do a study, every 2 or 3 years?
Yes.
And the last time we did a study, there was no
Nothing in that
indication
area.
there's only any lead or asbestos in the gym. So that, we were trying to think of whether there were a potential unforeseen, but it seemed like Joe pretty much covered the basis on it.
Want to go to the blue box, Joe?
That's the roofing renovation project. $1,625,000, that's approximately $31 a square foot. We have a note here, $1,500,000 from life safety funds, and then we also will carry a $75,000 contingency within the roofing bid package. The roofing will be a separate bid package from the majority of the work that we just went through in the gymnasium.
And if the actual cost of the roofs come in above the $1.5 million, Gary believes we can go back to the state with our other, when we do our final life safety submittal and see if they will increase the life safety. They would only allow $25 per square foot, and they, even though we estimated it was more than that, but they said if you can give us a reason why it would be more,
Right.
we could try to resubmit. So we'll have to wait and see what the final numbers are and potentially resubmit that.
Again, the same thing, benchmarking,
Yeah.
5 recent projects with cost per square foot roofing.
Well, we can benchmark off our own. We did 15,000 square feet with the exact same kind of roof.
Yeah, I mean, and access is a large variable from job to job. I mean, this is a tough job. Also, part of it is the gymnasium, so there's going to be heavy coordination with the work going on below, as well as the roof we're tearing off and putting on new above us. Landscape restoration work, they need a larger crane. I mean, we have a 20-foot roof elevation differential from low to high, so it's a difficult
Well,
job.
good, then public it here, that normally it's X per square foot, but because we're gonna be doing this,
Sure.
this, and this,
Sure,
we're going X plus Y.
sure, I got you.
They're also they have to do some work on pitching the roof properly, which is part of the cost here. And they're also, or Joel's we were going to do some work on cammering some lines.
That's gonna happen, we got that quote today, so that should be done by April.
They're going to camera the drain lines to make sure that if as part of the specs on the roof, the roofers have to rod out the drain lines because the drains go through the building into the sewer system. But Joel's going to camera them to make sure that they're all in good shape.
Is it not pitched correctly now, the roof?
I don't think we have any reason to believe it's not pitched
Can we just-
correctly.
Okay, it's just,
Is it just a design on the roof, or do you have to change the pitch, Joe?
Yeah, yes, it's an old roof, and we're gonna start from scratch and pitch it properly. So,
And the areas that we're showing that we have to replace the roof is showing leaking in the building right now as we're seeing it.
so an
And
Olson.
I think one other point that Joel made to us, so everybody knows, what was our contingency on the construction here, 750,000, something like that?
Somewhere in that area.
So we used about half of it, I believe. He said because you have a smaller job with a smaller contingency, it's more likely that you'll use a higher percentage of the contingency in a smaller job like this, just so people know. So in other words, we
75
used about
is-
half there, maybe we'll have to, shouldn't be surprised if we use 60,000 in contingency here instead of
And Olson Roofing
37.
worked with me on the estimate with this. Olson performed the work this past summer, so they're very familiar with your existing facility and what reality is and what they actually have to do, because they just went through it. So I'm very confident in their estimates.
so if we take into account, let's say the main gymnasium roof is something we don't want ever to leak. So are we using the appropriate quality materials to increase the lifespan or whatever?
I believe DLA spec'd the Garland system across all areas, and that's a very good system, so.
25 or
I don't-
30-year warranty.
I
if I'm
don't
not
believe that the gymnasium has a special roof per se. It's all the same manufacturer and same type of roof system, which is adequate.
Should we go through the contingents, the second page before?
Sure. If you go to the next spreadsheet, these are some alternates that will also be included on the bid form, which will be above and beyond the 7 wood flooring systems that we will have isolated. Alternate number 1 will be for a new divider curtain, so we need to remove the existing and then put in the new, and then obviously there's some electrical work with regards to the new curtain, and then some additional ceiling repair and patching work that will be required if we choose to install a new divider curtain. But again, this won't be part of the base bid, it'll be identified as an alternate that we can review. Alternate 2 on my spreadsheet will be to furnish and install additional conduit and power from the gymnasium back to an entrance area to provide ease of hookup for events within the gymnasium. Do you want to explain that one further, Kevin, or no?
So, you know, we, with the televising of graduation, televising of sporting events for RBTV, currently they run all the cords and power cords along the floor, out through the hallways, under the bleachers. So we wanted, as an alternate, Gary Prokes requested that we at least consider seeing what it would cost to have conduit and power piped out to the front of the building by entrance G, where they pull the truck when they do live broadcast of girls or boys basketball or of graduation.
To alleviate the cords going,
Right.
running all the time and being a tripping hazard in the hallways. Would you go back to the, by the way, that reminded me, did our specs for the bleachers, did it include the platform for the cameras that we talked about?
I believe
it did.
Does call for one.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The next alternate, we will see what the additional cost is to install second grade or better maple on the main floor, and then leave the third grade or better around the perimeter. I received 2 estimates, one from Stalker Flooring and one from Kiefer Flooring, and both were between $7,000 and $7,500 of additional cost if we choose to do that. But again, it'll be an alternate on bid day. Alternate number 4 will be to furnish and install new acoustical wall panels. So this would be in lieu of protecting the existing. So based on the feedback I received, it appears it's going to be an add of somewhere in the $20,000 range to remove existing wall panels and furnish and install new.
But then the 3,500 would come off.
Correct,
The other side.
correct.
How old are our acoustic panels?
I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that.
So do we know if it's worth saving them?
Right now, for $18,000, and we're $500,000 over, that's what I'm trying to find, as much as, there's not a lot to trim off here, so that was one area I thought we can get by just keeping them clean and bagged during the process, until I see what all the hard bids come in at and see if it's worth replacing it. I did the similar thing with the ceiling. It came out to be cheaper to replace the ceiling than trying to save it and paint it. At this point, I didn't see the savings with wall panels, but once the bid numbers come in, then we can maybe bring that back to the board. That's why I have it down there as a placeholder for a possible alternate.
The ceiling was supposed to get replaced back in 2006 or 7, whenever the previous project. They had anticipated it, so for what that's worth.
But they didn't, I don't
They
think.
did not.
It wasn't on our list.
Well, I had inside information.
Whoa.
So this is totaling 2.9 of hard cost. When we did this originally, what was the projected cost of these?
2.4,
So how can we be that far off in our original estimate?
150,000 construction mitigation, or the concrete mitigation, our demolition number.
So we
came in-
didn't, so when we had the study done, we didn't look to do those are pretty big costs that we didn't bother looking at.
Well, think about it like the consulting you do. When you do your first go-around, you look at the high level and try to get the big picture. You don't drill into every element of every part, because...
Yeah, but leveling is a pretty common thing.
Right, but we just cut the floor open in December.
If you just look at if you just looked at the leveling, let's say standard leveling is a 1/4 inch, okay? We have 3/4 of an inch built into the spreadsheet, built into the project. Okay, so that could easily be $50,000. So there's 100,000 there. The roofing alone, based on $25 a square foot, I mean, that's 300 right there. So those two alone, that's 400,000. That might have been ascertained way back when. So this is the first time a specific budget has been put together based on actual design drawings at 95%.
And I think the estimate you're referring to is the life safety estimate. That was for floors and, for bleachers and roofs. So this is basically our first estimate to replace the floor. We roughly put aside that 1.4 that was supposed to be left over for capital improvements, but this is basically our first estimate for flooring. That was not any part of the life safety work. I think the other portion is another 80,000, and then, and some of the other work related to it is the ceiling, so that's probably another 100. So right there, there's between the concrete mitigation, the ceiling, and the roofing, it's almost 400,000 or 500,000. Joe's number is higher than Carrie's number, but I believe that 343 includes all your pass-through stuff, correct? The
Yeah.
superintendent stuff.
Right, so if you go to the Nicholas and Associates Inc. Document dated February 22nd, so I created this fee structure based on 2906-270, which would be the hard cost on bid day. So we expect it to be under that, but I put a fee structure based on that to give everybody an idea of what that would look like. So we have CM fee, and then we have payment and performance bond cost. Then we have our fixed general conditions, which is project manager, on-site superintendent, which would be like Jeff Borg's role, like in the last project. Safety inspections. And then on the second page, we have insurance premium, and then I estimated reimbursable general conditions. So these are estimated. More than likely, there will be remaining funds, but this $35,700 is part of that $343,920 on the big spreadsheet. It's based on a 4-month project, so our construction schedule currently is June to end of September.
And we tried to put that in place so that would hopefully help us with bids. We prepared the volleyball coach that they might have to play in the East Gym and Field House for the first month and a half of the school year, so that contractors wouldn't hit us with overtime costs and bids. So we're hoping the bids come in a little lower for that. And we're also putting the roofs out end of February, first week of March to bid, so we're hoping roofers are hungry.
Well, the roofing project is not 4 months. The roofing project will be a summer critical timeline, so that'll be June to
Mid-August.
early mid-August.
Are we gonna have loss in revenue? With
Lost
camps?
revenue.
No, we're gonna run our camps still in the Field House and in the East Gym, and the one large rental tournament that occurs. We're still gonna be able to pull off the 2 big basketball rental tournaments to just be extended a day to accommodate East Gym and Field House only. That's what I've been planning for right now. I got another meeting about that, I think actually Thursday.
Is there revenue on on people coming? Do we charge?
Those both, one serves as a fundraiser for our basketball team, so they only pay us any overhead costs related to custodial maintenance and security. And I thought the other overhead is just a facility space rental and then overhead.
So how logically can we actually run the tournament if we don't have bleacher space for people to come and watch?
We still run those tournaments in the Field House and East Gym even when they're running with the temporary silver bleachers. So that's where they'll be sitting.
But does that mean like the little leagues will not be able to use it because we'll have tournaments in there, so we will lose revenue?
Most of that summer rental for baseball that's dominating our rental schedule right now is pretty vacant during the summer because of the outdoor availability.
Okay.
The only thing we'll have to coordinate is to make sure when they're working on roofs with cranes overhead that we have those spaces empty. But our big rental season is school year, when weather's not as good and people can need indoor space. So Joe, let me ask the question. What is your plan in the event that these bids come in close to what you got here and the board doesn't have this much to go through? How do we proceed? What would be a roughed out plan, or what idea, how you would advise us as our construction manager?
Identify potential cost savings. Obviously, there is not, well, with regards to the gymnasium, it would be items such as eliminate any and all new painting or reduce painting scope drastically. Don't paint the ceiling grid. Don't put in new ceiling tile. Leave existing, things like that. Obviously, depending on where the number is and how much we're looking to reduce is going to determine.
Does it make sense though to cut the floor?
To cut the floor?
To cut out doing a floor? Obviously, we can go with a cheaper floor version, but it doesn't make sense to say don't do the floor and put the bleachers in. Everything you've seen
on the roofing side, maybe we look harder into not doing a certain area. We have 52,000 square feet. Do we defer an area down the road? That's always an option.
But we can't defer it completely because it's part of the life safety.
Right.
We have no choice but
So
to
there's-
replace
there-
these.
It's a little different than the last project we did where we had more trades, more scopes of work, more options.
What's the issue with the stage doors?
They don't function and they're non-repairable. So you got all the holes and dents and some of the track is busted.
And do we use them? Do we use
No.
this stage? So,
Oh, we do use the stage,
for?
pep band, graduation, track practice, indoor track practice for jumping events.
So what do they do with the stage doors done at that time?
That's why we want to get them out of there. They're just taking up space. Just leave it open.
Based on what I know, I don't anticipate the hard numbers coming in substantially lower than what we're looking at. I believe they'll come in lower, but not substantially. I don't think this is gonna drop $500,000 or $600,000.
So the big area is the concrete, is the
Well,
potential
again, the
big one. That's
roofing-
that's the one you're saying the biggest number
You have to
potentially
remember,
could change.
This roofing estimate was given to me by Olson Roofing. He knows a lot more than any other roofing contractor. Chances are, there'll probably be somebody more competitive than him because they don't know as much as he does and they don't know what they're gonna encounter. So there's a high likelihood that roofing number is where we're gonna see the majority of our cost savings off of this baseline here.
Because the amendment to the state was 1.3. The state only allowed $25 when we sent it in.
And the moisture mitigation and leveling, I don't expect that to change a whole lot because we're telling them you're to figure 3/4 of an inch of material. We're not saying just level as required and they're gonna decide how thick to go. We're telling them 3/4.
That
So-
150 show up as an allowance for them, though?
No, you won't see the 150 broken out. We'll know what that value is based on a unit price that they fill out. So we're telling them that this unit price will be used to adjust up or down that scope of work. So we know the
Not to
square.
exceed 3/4.
So whatever number if they put $1 in for the unit price, $1 times the area that we all know, let's say it's $17,000, or 17,000 square feet, there's $17,000 in for this work, and then we'll verify the actual extent of the work, and then we'll take that unit price and create the deduct.
Create the credit back.
So whatever they write in for that unit price, that's how we'll know what's in the base bid. So.
Listen,
I think we're covered every which way here. So at the end of the day, the district's only paying for what's been performed out there. We can go in at a lesser depth, but I'd hate to say figure 1/4, next thing you know, we need a 1/2 to 3/4, and now we're chewing up the whole contingency to accommodate leveling. I'd rather go this way, make sure it's part of the bid, and get more bang for your buck with other work.
The bleacher spec had the curtains on the side.
That's gonna be another alternate that's not on the spreadsheet.
That's not on here, right.
But that will be the last alternate. We talked about all the other ones, so we're gonna see what the added cost is for some end curtains on each end of the bleachers to cover that gap and that void. Maybe prevent balls from flying under there, things like that.
Kevin, have you thought about potential of soliciting donations, major donations?
I haven't thought about soliciting major donations. I've thought about pursuing donations for a scoreboard. We need a new scoreboard and probably an upgraded sound system, so I was trying to pursue that. I haven't thought about pursuing the whole naming rights.
Well, you never know. You get it out there, and there may be some rich alum that
Happens to be passing through O'Hare.
could be. There's some rich alums from our school.
One thing we're gonna do, we talked about it with Joe, to do a fundraiser to maybe help offset the scoreboard and sound system upgrades, was selling pieces of the floor. You know, being, school's been here for so long, we've had a pretty successful basketball program for a couple decades. We're gonna cut a portion, as they demo the portion of the floor, we'll cut it out and maybe cut 12 by 12 squares of the floor that people can purchase. I don't think it's gonna generate what we're thinking, but between that and then hopefully trying to pursue a couple corporate sponsors for the scoreboard and some of those costs.
The Kevin, in other
What-
gyms, there are, along your line, there are banners from businesses?
Yeah, we have some of those now. We get about $800 a season.
And where does that go? Does that go for like
That goes to-
supplies or?
Goes to the athletic department to help cover some of the costs.
Okay.
The scoreboard isn't even in these numbers.
Right.
It's an alternative, right?
Nope.
Nope, it's not even in the
I'm hoping it
alternative.
comes up zero.
Yeah, we're trying to do it outside.
I'm working on some things.
Unless the Keene family has some money they want to throw on the side.
We're talking about Rich
I said
alum.
I
Rich
think that would be
alum.
good. Keene Gym,
Landmark newspaper.
you know, landmark.
So,
That's got a huge circulation.
Kevin, based on this is the bid package that went out, the bid openings,
There's a
bid-
man-
bids tomorrow.
Right, so bid docs became available this afternoon after lunch, and we have a mandatory pre-bid tomorrow at 11 a.m. And then we'll take bidder questions, and we'll issue some clarifications, and we have a bid opening, I believe it's on the 7th. of
Right,
March.
right before the board, day before the board meeting, I think.
Yeah.
Pre-bid is here, or is it pre-bid at Nicholas's office?
It's here. Expect a good turnout tomorrow, and we'll get good coverage like last time, and see where the numbers fall.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
When will you be able to have a comparable cost per square foot?
I'll speak with Carrie and Hilarion at DLA, and
I know they did one gym floor in a suburb.
Has Nicholas done any gym floors lately, Joe?
Oh.
I'd have to go back and look. We have, but they're part of larger projects. I mean, one that I know of off the top of my head down at Indicator at Eisenhower High School, that was part of a $30 million project that part of that $30 million consisted of removing an existing floor on sleepers similar to this. But I mean, the scope and the size and the bleacher, everything, it's just not a total comparison, but I could work on something. I'll work with Carrie and Hilarion, and we'll get that information.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.